Darren Cunningham, aka Actress, is an electronic beat wizard from motherfucking London, I think. He is an artist I am personally really obsessed with. I didn't like him very much for a long time, and now he's like one of my favorite producers to ever exist. That's because I listened to his music for the first time when I was 15 years old, and the record I listened to was called Ghettoville. It's his 2014 album. If you want to get into Actress, don't fucking start there, especially if you're 15 and a total newbie to electronic music. Because I was really put off by the atmosphere of that thing, the tone of it, the grooves, the sound palette. It was all very odd and alien and weird to me, and I just didn't understand it. However, it just wouldn't leave my mind. I just kept like thinking about it whenever I wasn't listening to it, and I was like, what is this record? It was just so bizarre to me, and I just couldn't, quit my fascination with it until one day I listened to it again, and I found myself enjoying the songs on that album. Actress is one of the first that really kind of challenged me. It actually made me think, like, I'm enjoying this, but am I really enjoying this? Let me think for a minute. Like, what about what I'm hearing right now is enjoyable? Let me just think, like, what currently happening in the song that I'm listening to right now? What is actually enjoyable right now? Like, what am I really enjoying about the song? Like, I guess I like the drums. They're cool. Something. It's cool. What am I really enjoying? It was really one of those moments. Like, it really had me like questioning like how one enjoys certain types of music and different ways to enjoy music and shit like that. And I think Actress did a lot for my ability to look for other things in electronic music outside of like melodic prettiness, and instead made me appreciate just atmosphere and rustic texture. I've since freaking devoured his discography. I'm really fond of all of it. And now we have a brand new entry in this man's ever-growingly wild discography, Karma and Desire. And this is definitely his most weird since Ghettoville, which, to be fair, that was only like 2 albums ago. But still, AZD, his last record, that's like the total opposite of this new record. That album was the cleanest Actress album I have heard so far. Really, really, like, crystal fucking textures on that thing. And this album is fuzzy, it's broken, it's inconsistent as freak with what the hell it's doing, and it has a load of sampler. And you know what AZD does not have? It doesn't have a load of sampler at all. It's 0 sampler. So yeah, this is like the opposite of AZD. It's supposed to be pronounced Azid. I always call it AZD. I don't know why I do that. But I listened to this record for the first time on a morning walk on a very cloudy day. It was kind of like slightly raining a little bit, which feels like the exact place this album was supposed to be listened to in. There's a lot of piano work on this record, loads of piano, the most piano I've ever heard on an Actress album easily. There's some tracks that are literally just piano, which gives it a pretty haunting, distant, and cold feel, like you're just being subtly watched by something in the distance. The cover art, of course, also speaking to that, like has a real like surveillance-y, like paranoid feel to it. I took some notes on this album. Where is it? It's been really difficult to piece together what aspects of the record I love most on subsequent listens, because there are so many different approaches and styles this thing kind of bobs and weaves in throughout its runtime. But it's a really dilapidated, eerie, and barren sounding album most of the time. And my favorite thing about Actress's beats is that they sound really simple. The samples, the drums, all of the instruments you're hearing are just stuff you could just kind of get on any software ever. But the way he arranges them is something that you would just never think to see in them. Like, Actress's approach to constructing a rhythm is so unbelievably unique, which gives the album kind of a almost uncomfortable but really immersing quality. Like, it sounds like stuff that technically any producer could do if they'd really tried to do it, but no one else would. There's some really odd pitch shifting and some strange effects added to a lot of the vocals that appear on this record too, which really, complement the very fractured and decayed feel this album has. And then you have the vocal features from Sampha and Zasela. I don't know how you're pronouncing that. So I messed it up. I know I did. I should have just not bothered. But every single one of those new additions fits really snugly into the Actress formula, but it's hard not to feel like it's a little disjointed, lacking kind of the full depth and realization I think it wants to have. And some of the songs were a little too hard to swallow in their sluggish pacing and odd placement on the record, like the Many Seas, Many Rivers with the 8-minute long sample song. Sampha could have just left that song entirely. I was not into Sampha's contribution on that one. There's some really weird vocal sampling on that song. Like, it sounds like it's being whispered through a fucking drive-through machine, and it's like some fucking demon baby voice or some shit. And it sounds fucking tight alongside the piano, but then that gets looped for like 8 minutes. And then Sampha comes on top of all of that, and his voice is really clean and soothing, and it just doesn't really mix for me. So yeah, that track should have been like maybe an interlude without Sampha, because I don't think it needs to be that long or have Sampha. But when all of these things connect, it can make for some really evocative and melancholic instrumentals that are really hard to shake away. Like they just play in my head and really they haunt my brain. Leaves Against the Sky was the first clear winner on the record upon first listen. Is the most immediate track for me. The bouncy drum switch ups that happen across its runtime, the really weird wonky piano trickery that Actress is just toying with throughout the whole track, incredibly infectious but also incredibly eerie at the same time. The way it all gets pitched down at that one point early on in the track was really immersing. This song is fundamentally very groove centered, but it doesn't lack in any of the atmosphere you'd come to expect from an Actress song. Another definite favorite is the song Loveless, which has some of the weirdest sample choices, like that one little yeah. Why would you think to use that? Why does it work? What? The squelchy bass on this shit is irresistible. I love that little like synth melody that pops in that sounds kind of like a distant nightclub in some futuristic Black Mirror city or something. Save was another definite highlight for me. I love how multifaceted this song was. The piano riffs on this track are really unsettling. They sound like bad news is about to happen, but you're just not ready for it, and you don't know when it's coming, but it's coming and you know it is, and it's just uncomfortable. It has this ambiguously cold atmosphere to it that I can just never whisk away. The closing track I think is the best Sampha appearance for sure. His voice is so perfect on this song. He has this like whiny sort of moan that gets looped in alongside the drums that sounds really fucking beautiful. It sounds so eerie, but just so like it's like the one comfort blanket amongst a pretty desolate sounding track. These tracks are so oddly constructed, they're so alluring, but I guess as a complete record experience, it's a little fucking jarring. Tracks like Public Life and Fret and X-Ray really confuse me. X-Ray feels like a little bit of a bridge to nowhere. I like the idea of the bass sort of swallowing these really luscious pads, but it doesn't really have much of a interesting structural progression to me. The song Loose was really fast-paced and jittery, which is a nice change-up, but it sort of came amongst a sea of more like soft ambient moments and felt like a pretty strange wake-up. Like, nothing really about the record was really cooling for a song like that to pop into the mix, I suppose. But I did really enjoy some tracks in the second half. Turin was a huge highlight for me, definitely the most club-friendly song on the album. Overall, this record has a lot of the Actress fundamentals in place, as you'd expect them to be and all that shit. And even with the addition of those creepy fuzzy pianos and the features and all that, the sound palette is still kept deceptively simple, which just makes Actress's universe is such an introverted, weird little playground, but it feels so vivid. And on this record, at its best moments, it sounds incredibly alive and really curiosity-inducing, but it's just way too fractured of a listening experience for me to say I adored it. But I think its best moments are incredibly attention-grabbing and really interest-piquing. This album's always begging me to just peek a little further into whatever the world is really trying to form, and Sampha's ghostly presence throughout the songs I think is a nice touch overall. Is this the modern version of the Subtract self? It's not the modern version. I'm gonna give this record a 6 out of 10 overall. Really fascinating album, as Actress albums always are. Not my favorite Actress album, possibly my least favorite, but I still did enjoy my time with it. I still think it's definitely worth a try. It's an album that deserves to be given quite a lot of time to really let its weird oddities kind of become something that interest you and allure you, because some of these tracks were really just playing in my head like crazy. Yeah, overall it gets a thumbs up for me. That's my review of Calmer and Desire by Actress. Thank you so much for watching my review. I'll catch you on the next video if you're around to see that. If you do watch the next video, I'll see you there, I think. Well, I won't actually see you, I'll just be looking at my camera and editing. I won't actually physically see you there, but that's just an expression for like, see you next time, you know how it is. Bye!